Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर वासुदेव गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय Okay, Mataji, we can start Kirtan.
Yes, Prabhu. Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschattadeshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Paramanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Harinam Sankirtan ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Kirtan party group ki jai.
Jai.
Hari bol. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Very nice, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat, Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept humble obeisances.
Pranam Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dhan Pranam, Hare Krishna,
Dhan
Prabhu, Dhan Pranam, all glories to
Krishna
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Jai Sri
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranams, Hare Krishna Shri Prabhupada.
Dhan Pranam, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the wonderful Kirtan as always. Rajesh Govinda Prabhu, you and your family, such wonderful Kirtan you all do is very, very inspiring, very nice.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome. Yeah, and the children, so nicely they play the instruments. They are enthusiastic. They're making us feel enthusiastic. So very, very nice. Thank you, kids. Great job.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. All right. So, Prabhuji's, Mataji's. So, should we then start with the recap from last time and then we can continue further?
Yes, Prabhu.
So somebody would like to do the recap?
Anybody wants to volunteer?
I have to get the notebook. I don't know.
So we actually discussed second chapter 56th onwards, I think. Yeah, 50,
Yes.
56, 57, 58, 59.
So we read those verses, but we basically discussed only 56.
Yes, only 56.
Stita Prajna. That was the main focus.
Yeah. So basically, to start with, actually, if we go little backwards before 56, Arjuna asks Krishna a question: how does a transcendentalist walk? How does he talk? How does he, sit? So those questions. So Krishna actually answers in this verses all of his questions. Krishna says that basically a sage, who is very sense controlled. Sthitadir muniruchyate. Who is that person whose senses are controlled? One who is not, or one who is free from attachment. Vita raga bhaya krodha. That is very important. So one who is free from attachment, and then he can be free from fear also, fear and anger. So the person who is free from all these things is said to be a muniruchyate, sage. So he's basically telling the qualities of that person who is a transcendentalist, So basically, you also mentioned that all our activities, whatever we do, has to be in such a way that we have to please Krishna, not to please ourselves. As long as we are in this platform of pleasing our own self, and our senses are always agitated, so they're always getting attached. So if you're getting attached, that means we are getting attached to this fear and anger. Fear and anger are the byproducts of that attachment. So definitely it will be there. So that's what you mentioned. Anything else? If somebody else wants to add, please.
Yes, Prabhuji, just at the end when Prabhuji said, like one who is not disturbed by the fear or anger, like that, with that anger, we went a little more in deep as to, why we get disturbed, because no expectations. And then here Krishna is mainly clarifying that, keeping in Arjuna also in his position, that don't be angry. Like, you should free even from anger, irrespective of whatever kind of the situations or expectations or frustrations. That is only when we don't have success, then we get angry. That means the expectations didn't go through. But then at the end, Krishna is very clearly saying, even like, when you're not attached, then there's no question of expectation. There's no question of pride or ego. and there's no anger, and which means success or no success, you should not get agitated. So like in the verse where it said, fear, anger, then you need to study with the study mind. So that fear concept, we all had some interactive session there. I just wanted to add that, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else? Prasanga Prabhuji?
Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanuj
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Mataji. Dhanuj Pranam. Jai.
So, a devotee must be a Stitadir Muni, as Prabhuji had mentioned earlier. So, I would like to add few points regarding the 6 enemies we had talked last time, like Kama, Moha, and Matsara, Krodha. And like we all had the love for Krishna earlier, like pleasing Krishna, but that eventually, it transformed into lust. So due to our, like we had, when we are in touch with this material world, with the moods, the love had transformed into lust. So that is the reason of all these things going on. So now we are trying, because of lust is nothing but we are trying to please ourselves, not Krishna. So it's just, we have that quality in us, but we need to just, divert our thinking towards Krishna rather than diverting it for self. So, like the symptom of love for Krishna is like we are ready to do anything just to please Krishna. That is the symptom of love. And we had seen a couple of examples, as you were mentioning about laddu and money. Yeah, we'll not be satisfied how much ever we have, that is the quality. And because of this lust, it's like a chain reaction. We would develop anger, and that anger, we are not like Stitadir Muni is a sage of steady mind. So in order to get that, we have to control our anger. And you had given us some practical tips, like how can we control anger, what is our, we should see why we are getting angry, the motivation behind that is important, as you mentioned last time. So that one was a take home for us. And so we have to develop love for Krishna. That way we develop the quality of being steady in mind. And we had even seen like one quote which you mentioned, like Srila Prabhupada usually tells, like a fool cannot be identified until they talk. So that was also like from last session I was thinking to just share. So everything, the reason is like we have attachment. So we have to cut the attachment through knowledge. That was another point. Others are, everybody covered other points. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else?
Prabhu, even though we may say it's better not to be attached, especially with the concerning our children, grown-up children, or our spouse, whatever it is, it's very difficult though, our parents or our kith and kin, our brothers, sisters. It's really difficult, even though we are apart from them, thousands of miles apart from, living apart from them. It's still very difficult to get detached from them though. We may be physically not be present, but mentally and deep inside we are present with them. I know, it's okay to say cut down the senses, because I think we have built up all kinds of years and years or thousands of millions of years of samskaras. Sometimes it's even though we try to cut down, it's very difficult to uproot ourselves from attachment. It's not easy. That's what I realized. I know Krishna is saying this to Arjuna, and it is also meant for us, and easier said than done. In at least in my you know, years, senior years. I am feeling it, even though we may be distantly away from our kids, but still we are with them mentally.
Definitely, Mataji, that is quite natural. That is why Arjun was facing this whole dilemma. And the point that Krishna is making is that eventually separation is a fact of life. And by separation, what I mean is that all of, the relatives, etc., they eventually, everybody goes away, right? And so in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the end of life for the relatives was very imminent, and Arjun was going to be the instrument to bring about that end. So that's why the situation was even more dramatic, and Arjun was saying, it's one thing if the end comes through natural causes, but here I am going to be the cause of their end. And Krishna was saying, Arjun, you are not the cause of their end. Krishna says, I am the cause of their end. You are simply the instrument. And even if you don't want to be the cause, even if you don't want to be the instrument, the end has already been determined by me. You cannot change it. So the lesson for all of us is that whatever happens in this material world is definitely happening by the will of the Supreme Lord. We make so many plans, we have thoughts, ideas, plans. Some things play out that way, many things don't. And that's a very clear indication that we are not the ones who are controlling anything. The Supreme Lord is controlling everything. Therefore, the focus for us then should be to please the Supreme Lord, try and understand what the Supreme Lord wants and why has he given us this material body, why are we in this material world, and how can we make best use of this very, very rare opportunity of getting this material body in a human form to please Krishna and finally come out of the cycle of birth and death. And if we think that separation from relatives is difficult, Krishna is giving us the solution. He's saying, come back to the spiritual world. There will be no birth, death, old age, disease, separation, lamentation, hankering, nothing. There'll be nothing like that. That it's all bliss, Satchid Ananda Vigraha. We will all attain eternal bodies full of bliss, full of knowledge. Krishna is saying, look around you. You see this material world has got so much suffering in it. Come back to your original abode, the spiritual abode. So totally agree with your points, Mataji, but I guess the bigger picture is Krishna wants us to realize that these difficulties exist only in the material world. They're not there in the spiritual world, and that's where we belong.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Anybody else with the recap?
I think we are good, Prabhu.
Okay. So thank you so much, Muktasanga Prabhu. Mataji's excellent recaps. There's such good points you all brought up. Muktasanga Prabhu, thank you so much. So let's proceed. So last time, basically, we had actually discussed only 56. So today, I think we'll proceed from 57 onwards. So reading of the Sanskrit. Kids.
Yes. Go ahead, Surut Prabhu. Ya sarvatra
प्राप्य शुभाशुभम्
Tatat prapya shubhashubham nabidanti
tasya prajna pratisthita.
tasya prajna pratisthita.
The material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil
He may obtain neither praising it or not despising it. It is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Surat Prabhu. Brinda Devi.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yada samharate chayam
Yada
Yada
samharate chayam
kurmungani vasarvashaha
kurmo
kurmo
angani
niva
vasarvashaha
sarvasha
indriyartebhyas
indriyani
indriyani
indriyartebhyas
indriyatevyas
tasya prajna pratishtita.
tasya
tasya prajna
prajna
pratishtita.
pratishtita.
One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Brinda. Prajna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Vishaya vinivartante
Vishaya
Vinivartante
niharasya tehina
Niraharasya
Niraharasya
dehina
dehina
rasavarjam rasopyasa
Rasavarjam
yasya
rasopyasya
param drishtva nivartate.
param
param
drishtva
drishtva
nivartate.
nivartate.
Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prajna Mataji. Tyagu Prabhu.
He's driving.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, Ji.
So anyone else wants to volunteer?
I will do Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yatato hiyapi kaunteya
Tato hi api
Kaunteya
kaunteya
purusasya vipaschitaha
purushasya
vipassita
vipasthita
indriyani pramarthini
indriyani
indriyani
pramarthini
pramarthini
haranti prasambham manaha.
Aranti.
anti prasambham manaha.
manaha.
In the translation by Divine Grace of Vachana Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So is it okay, Prabhu, or if we need to read one more?
No, I think it's good. If anybody else wants to read, we can just read 57 again.
Yaha sarvatra nabhisnehas
Ya sarvatra nabhisnehas
tat prapya shubhashubham
tat prapya shubhashubham
nabhinandanti nadveshti
Nabhinandati
nadveshti
tasya prajna pratishtita.
tasya prajna pratishtita.
In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge.
All right. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So then we'll continue. Start the invocation prayers, and we can do some discussion. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyanjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So text 57. Yad sarvatra anabhime has tattat prapya shubhashubha. Nabhi nandati na dveshati tasya prajna pratishtita. So this verse 57 is actually like a continuation of 56, where Krishna is describing to us the qualities of a person who is who has his mind perfectly controlled. So these are the qualities that are being described. And we have often heard of the word samadhi. And samadhi is basically the common perception of somebody in samadhi is that of a yogi who is sitting in a forest or somewhere in a cave alone, and his mind is completely detached from everything that's going around in the material world, and he's fixed in samadhi. That is the perception that we have in our mind. But here Prabhupada is describing in the purport that Krishna here is describing the state of mind of a person who is a perfect yogi. And this perfect yogi, his mind is so controlled that despite the fact that he or she may be engaging in so-called ordinary activities, that person is actually in samadhi. Because the purpose of samadhi is to control the mind perfectly. So one way to control the mind perfectly is to just go and sit in a cave. But what is the point of sitting in a cave if your mind is still in Atlanta and or wherever else your residence might be? And if your mind is still troubled by all the attachments that we have, family and work and things like that. So Krishna is saying that actually samadhi means despite your circumstances, whether you're in a cave or in your office, despite your circumstances, if your mind is fixed completely on Krishna, then your mind is under your control. And that is technically known as samadhi. So that is, and when that samadhi stage is reached, in the translation we see, Krishna says, in the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So being fixed in perfect knowledge, what does it mean to be fixed in perfect knowledge? What it means is having perfect understanding, complete understanding of who are we, who is God, what is our relationship with God, what should our karma be, why we are in this material world, what are we supposed to do with ourselves because we are in this material world. All of these topics constitute the understanding that is known as being fixed in knowledge. Because really, what is knowledge? You might say, oh, knowing about the structure of an atom is knowledge. Yes, that is one branch of knowledge. It applies only to physics. Or we may say that being able to see distant planets through a telescope, that is knowledge. We can say that Saturn has so many rings around it and so on. So that's all knowledge. Yes, these are all knowledge. These are all pieces of knowledge. But eventually, real knowledge means if we understand that we are spirit souls residing in this body, we have come from the spiritual world, and our goal is to somehow use this opportunity of having this material life to go back to Godhead, back to the spiritual world, and not keep coming back into this material world and transmigrating from one body to another, to another, to another. So that is perfect knowledge. And when a person is situated in that knowledge, guess what happens? Well, if they are in this material world, doesn't mean that every time they will keep getting everything that they desire. That is not the goal of the perfect yogi. A person may get good, may get some evil. But Krishna says here that a person who is unaffected by whatever good or evil, neither praising it nor despising. If you get something good, you say, oh, so wonderful, you praise it. If something not so good comes your way, oh, this is so bad, I don't like it. These reactions happen because we are attached to something. If we want something and we accomplish it, we say, ah, this is so nice, I'm so happy. And if we don't accomplish it, we despise that situation. So Krishna is saying, this is all the result of attachment. In the previous verse, we had seen that the words used were Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. So raga, attachment, that was the key there. And that attachment to material objects leads to fear. It comes from, and it is associated with the 6 enemies of spiritual life. So here Krishna is further describing, elaborating on that point, and says that because the person has controlled Kam, Krodha, Lobh, Moh, Mada, and Matsarya, the 6 enemies of spiritual life, because such a person is then free from attachment, therefore, that person can be unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain. So Krishna is basically answering this question for Arjun, that what are the symptoms of a person who is steady in transcendental knowledge. So this is one answer. Then after text 57, we move on to text 58, where Krishna is actually answering a question that Arjun had asked earlier. The 4 questions that he had asked, one of them was, how does the transcendentalist or the devotee sit? How does he sit? So, and we had discussed that what is the meaning of how does he sit? Seems like a very simple question. A person sits on a chair or sits on the ground, sits cross-legged or whatever. But that's not the point. What Krishna is, or what Arjuna is actually asking is that how does he sit means how does he not engage his senses? So when you're sitting, that is an analogy for not working, you're sitting. And the deeper question is, you're sitting, how does he sit? Meaning, how does he not engage his senses? When he said, how does he walk? Arjuna asked, how does the person walk and how does he sit? So walking pertains to how he engages his senses, sitting pertains to how he does not engage his senses. So the answer to that here Krishna is giving. In 58, the translation is, one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Mahatma Seva Prabhu, since you just joined, we are on chapter 2, text 58. So Hare Krishna. So, so the person is able to withdraw the senses from sense objects. This is a very, very, very key point that Krishna is making regarding how a person sits or how a person does not engage his senses. And Krishna is giving this analogy of a tortoise. So the tortoise, we know, has the ability, if you see the tortoise, he's walking, and if some danger comes, immediately he stops and pulls his legs and arms inside the shell, and all you see is the shell. That is the protective covering. So Krishna is using this analogy to indicate that every human being has senses. Every human being has senses. But the art of devotional service is, how do you use your senses? How do you not use your senses? And the analogy is being given that just like a tortoise can pull his senses inside the shell whenever he wants, same way, the devotee can control the senses the way he or she wants and not be controlled by the senses. So that's the key difference. Devotee controls the senses, non-devotee is controlled by the senses. And we've also read that one who controls the senses is called Goswami. Swami means controller. This is another word for senses. So Goswami controls the senses. Godas is the opposite, is the servant of the senses. So in order to control the senses, in text 59, Krishna says, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense enjoyment remains. But ceasing such engagement by experience, a higher taste is fixed in consciousness. So in 59, then Krishna starts explaining how a person can achieve the state described in 58. 58 says, control the senses, be in perfect control of them like the tortoise. And then 59, he says, okay, but here's how you do it, how you get to that point. And he says it is not by restricting from sense enjoyment. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense object remains. This is the same thing. You may say that, okay, I'll go and sit in a cave and I'll become a perfect yogi. Well, you try it. If you sit in a cave, then after some time, if you start feeling hot, or if you start feeling cold, or you start feeling hungry, or you start missing your family, you start missing food, what is the point? You've really not achieved anything. So the idea is that when you do that, the taste for the sense object still remains. You're feeling hungry, oh, I want to eat this, I want to eat that, I'm missing such nice food I used to eat at home when I was at home. So when the taste for sense object remains, it is not possible to control the senses. So the idea here is that the taste or the motivation, as we had discussed the last time, the motivation for activity, that needs to be transformed. And Krishna is saying that your motivation for activity should be acting for my pleasure. The whole explanation that he's giving Arjun is that Arjun, don't say that you will not act. You must act, you must work, you must perform your duty. But it is only the motivation for performing the duty that needs to change. So, 60, well, before we go to 60 over there, Krishna's kind of giving more, he's giving more guidance regarding controlling the senses, and he issues a warning also. The warning that he gives in 60, and we'll discuss more of this later, but he's telling Arjun that if you think that you can go, like Arjun had said, that I'll go to the forest, I live by begging, I don't want to have this kingdom, it's of no use. And Krishna is saying, if you think that you can just go to the forest and sit down there and live by begging, you are mistaken. And so he's issuing this warning in text 60, where he says the senses are so strong and impetuous. Impetuous meaning they have a will of their own. They'll just do what they want to do. You will not be able to control them. Says the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjun, that they forcibly carry away the mind. Forcibly they carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. You may be trying to control them, but they are so strong that they'll carry you away. So Krishna is issuing a warning. And what is the purpose of issuing that warning? Because he wants Arjun not to go down this path of not acting, thinking that the act that he's going to perform, act of warfare, this is going to be sinful, or this act is going to, this act represents material attachment. Krishna is saying that's not the case at all. Your circumstances and your activity, they are by the way. Your mentality or your mind, your consciousness, as long as that is fixed on me, that is the important part. So then let's go back to 58. 58.
Excuse me, Prabhu. Vathala Mataji has raised her hand, so she has a question, I guess.
Oh, who has?
Vathala Mataji.
Yes.
Sorry, excuse me, Prabhu.
Yes,
Because I am just wondering, because Arjuna, from my understanding, is supposed to be better than all of us. He must be, since he's a friend of Krishna, he should know. It's surprising for me to find out from Arjuna, why is he asking the question like, what does the person talk, or how does he talk, how does he sit, how does he walk? And I'm really surprised at the question that he is asking Lord Krishna, because I thought he would do much more really deeper questions than than just ordinary. For ordinary souls, I'm sure this is all addressed for us, but just for, I am just an ordinary person, and anybody, when somebody says, well, what is how do you sit, how do you talk, it's just so ordinary, very, very, it doesn't bring any deepest meaning to that word. So just can you explain that, please?
Sure, Mataji. Thank you for the question, and I'm glad you asked, because otherwise so please feel free to interject anytime. You're right. Arjun is asking these questions on our behalf. Arjun is a close associate of Krishna. He is in perfect knowledge, but right now he is acting like one of us, and that is why he's asking these questions. And even though these questions appear simple on the surface, meaning how does the person sit, how does the person talk, that these questions all have a deeper meaning. And so when we were talking about how does a person sit, it means how does he not engage his senses. So this is as good a segue as any to get into that topic a little more. How does a person not engage his senses? You know that when we are initiated, we are asked to follow the 4 regulative principles, right? What is the purpose of those principles? The purpose of those principles, at least the 4 regulative principles, are about how not to engage our senses. So it has got all connection with how does a person sit, how does a devotee sit, meaning no intoxication, no eating, etc. Those 4 activities are do nots. And how does he talk? How does he walk? Those are the do's. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So these are very, these questions may seem simple, but they actually get to the heart of devotional service.
So Srila Prabhupada must have taken these things from in a deeper level, like what Sri Krishna is explaining to him and Arjuna is asking him. So he must have taken all these things for our sense control, I think, from what we are reading now. So he must have assimilated or accumulated all these things for us to follow. Is it?
Yes, exactly, Mataji. Because Prabhupada, as he has always said, he has not invented any of these. These are coming straight from the Shastra. So, for example, when we hear of the four directive principles, they are coming from the Shastra. They're coming from Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we say no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating, no illicit sex, they are very much connected. They are coming from Shastra because if you remember in Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear about how Maharaj Parikshit saw Kali personified. Kali as a person. When he saw him, Maharaj Parikshit approached him and stopped him because he saw that Kali was about to kill a cow. You see, and from there the discussion started, and so Kali said, "But Maharaj, you are the king of this earth. Now I am falling at your feet. You have to give me a place to stay. You cannot kill me." So even though Maharaj Parikshit did not want Kali to be around, he could not kill him because, according to principle, he had taken shelter of Maharaj Parikshit. So Maharaj Parikshit, then there were these four places where he was allowed to reside. And so a gambling den is one of the places where Kali can reside. Liquor, one of the places where Kali can reside. So these four regulative principles are coming from there. That is why we say no gambling. A devotee must not engage in gambling. Otherwise, you are exposing yourself to the influence of Kali, because Kali resides in these places. So these are all scientifically determined and connected from Shastra. And so this is the connection with how does a devotee sit, meaning how does he not act. A devotee does not gamble, does not engage in intoxication, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense, Mataji?
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Yes, yeah, I know Srila Prabhupada had taken out everything, even though it is harder for, for the Westerners or even for us, sometimes it's hard. But I think it's okay. I understand now. At least in our culture, our parents have taught us a little bit more. Right. So we haven't practiced any of that. So from the beginning, we haven't done that. So it is not difficult for us. For people who are exposed and brought up here, it will be really very difficult for them in this society. But vices also can get into you sometimes unknowingly. So that, okay, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for explaining.
And you see the heartening factor is, on the surface, even when Prabhupada came to America, he thought, who is going to listen to me? Right? In this Western society, if I tell them no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, etc., he said, nobody's going to listen to me. But because of the purity, and because this is the message straight from Shastra, you have seen Prabhupada came here, and so many people, all these Western, like Prabhupada say, boys and girls, they took to the process and they became devotees. And today, worldwide, there are devotees. So this is our Indian Vedic knowledge, which has now spread all over the world. Why has it spread all over the world? Because this is, as our Shastra says, this is Sanatan Dharma, eternal religion. What is the meaning of eternal religion? Meaning is, this is the actual religion, dharma, or another word for it is the actual occupation of a human being. This is not an occupation of an American or an Indian or a Chinese person. This is the occupation of a human being. You may be born in China, Russia, Japan, wherever, but a human being is a human being, regardless of which planet he's on. And that is why when this knowledge is given to them, it attracts them. And so it's not a coincidence that from Australia to New Zealand to America to Russia, China, Africa, anywhere on this continent, people are reading this Bhagavad Gita and people are following these four executive principles and becoming devotees. Otherwise, what is the commonality between a person in, say, faraway Australia and an Indian from either Vrindavan or anywhere in India for that matter who's following this process? This process is Sanatan Dharma, eternal religion. It cuts across all barriers of nationality, race, and anything. And that's why, I mean, the proof is, like they say, the proof is in the pudding. There are devotees in Europe, America, everywhere, all over the world, because after all, they're all human beings. And this appeals to them. It touches their heart. They say, wow, this is giving me happiness. This is giving me satisfaction. This is what I was looking for. And that's why they take to it. So anyway, so just coming back to, so this was the question of how to sit, meaning how not to engage the senses. Then the opposite of that becomes how to engage the senses. So text 58, how does he walk? That is the answer to that question. So text 58 says how he walks is he's in complete control of his senses like the tortoise. So now here it's good to get into some examples. And one very easy to and very common example, which everybody is familiar with, is example of Hanumanji. So Krishna is not saying that you just tie up your senses and just become a vegetable. No. Krishna is saying you must use your senses, but how to use them is the key. And to how to use them is in the service of Krishna. So even if the emotion with which you're using your senses is anger, there's no problem if it's being used in the service of Krishna. Again, like last time we had discussed, the motivation is the important part. What was Hanumanji's motivation for being angry? His motivation was, these Rakshasas have captured my worshipable Ramchandraji's wife Sita. I will punish these people. And so he found Sita Devi, and then when the Rakshasas tried to put his tail on fire, Hanumanji just went and burnt up all of Lanka. And so the use of his anger in the service of Sri Ram was not a sinful act. So even anger has a place. Anger can be used in the service of the Lord. Same way Krishna is telling Arjun, it's okay for you to be angry and fight with these people and finish them off, because that's what I want you to do. So this is the example, this is the analogy of the tortoise. You are using your senses in the service of the Lord. We try to do that on a daily basis. Every time when we eat prasad, we say, Ma prasade gonde, no brahmani vaishme, etc. Then jive bhele visay sagol. That the tongue is the hardest of all the senses to control. Tongue is the hardest. If you control the tongue, you've controlled everything. So jive bhele visay sagore. Taramati jivati lomo surmati. So Krishna says that the tongue is the hardest to control. So if you engage, but Krishna is not saying that I don't want you to stop using your tongue, do mon vrat. No, Krishna is saying you use your tongue to glorify me. You use your tongue for Krishna Katha. You use your tongue to eat Krishna Prasad, and it will not bind you in material reaction. So this is the example, this is the analogy of the tortoise. How to use your senses, how to walk. Use your senses in the service of Krishna. Use your tongue to eat Krishna Prasad. Use your tongue to chant the holy name, glorify the Lord, so on and so forth. So this whole idea of using our senses in the service of the Lord is the art and the key for devotional service. And when we do that, then all these symptoms of a devotee that are described in verses 56, 58, etc., they will start manifesting in us. So you may ask, how can we develop this consciousness? How can we develop Krishna consciousness? So there are many places in Shastra where there are nice instructions given. One of them, we see it comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita also, which is a quote from Padyavali. And so in that, Krishna, so that quote says, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavatamati Kriyatam Yadi Kuto Api Labhyate Tatra Lolyam Api Mulyam Ekalam Janma Koti Sukritirna Labhyate. Meaning, Krishna Bhakti, if you are getting Krishna Bhakti anywhere, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavatamati Kriyatam, if you Kritam Yadi Kuto Api Labhyate, if you can find it somewhere, then buy it. Buy it. How? What is the price for this Krishna Bhakti? You may ask, okay, if you're saying that I should buy Krishna Bhakti, what is the price for it? Or what do I have to give for it? So Krishna says, Tatra lolyam api mulyam eklam. Mulyam means price. And what is that mulyam? What's the price? Lolyam. And what does lolyam mean? Lolyam means greed. So you say, what? You are asking me to be greedy? So there's a very beautiful verse. It is greed, lolyam is greed, but greed not for material possessions, it is greed for bhakti. So see, again, for anger, if it is used in bhakti, it's a good thing. Greed, if it is for bhakti, it is a good thing. This is the analogy of the tortoise. You are using your senses, you are using your emotions in the way they are supposed to be used. You're not curbing them. You cannot crush them. After all, you're a living entity. You have consciousness. You're a soul. See, what is the symptom of the soul? What is the symptom of the soul?
Consciousness.
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 Yes.
As long as the soul is in your body, you will be conscious. As long as you're conscious, you will be hungry, you will be thirsty, you will be angry, you will be happy, you will be sad. All these things will be there. But if each one of these is integrated with Krishna, is each one of these is for Krishna's service, then it is not sinful, it will not bind you, it will keep you completely comfortable and happy. So tatra lolyam api mulyam ekalam. Ekalam. Ekalam means only one. There is only one price that you have to pay for bhakti, and that is greed for bhakti. So somebody might say, oh, but I am a very pious person. I have performed pious activities all my life. Will that get me bhakti? And this verse is no. Tatra lolyam api mulyam ekalam janma kotir sukritir na labhyate. Janma kotir, thousands of janmas, sukriti, pious credits, na labhyate, that you do not get it even after performing pious activities for thousands of births. But if in one birth you develop some greed for devotional service, the desire for devotional service, then you will get it. So how do we develop desire for devotional service? It is a virtuous cycle. To develop desire for devotional service, try to engage in devotional service. You say, but I don't have taste for this thing. You say, then you engage more in it and the taste will develop. So it is through practice. What is that verse in Bhagavad Gita? Krishna says, Abhyasena, when Arjuna asks that how do I control my mind?
Samshaya Mahabaho Manodur Nigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kauntaya Vairagyena Chagrahati.
Yeah, that's the. So the is through practice. Is through practice. But that initial spark, that initial desire to obtain bhakti, the initial desire to engage in bhakti comes simply by hearing about these topics. Again, when you're hearing, you're using your ears, you're using your senses to hear about Krishna. So like we're doing now, we are engaging in Krishna Katha. Each one of us is hearing Krishna Katha. Each one of us is hearing about Krishna. This will develop into a desire for more Krishna Katha. It will then develop into a greater desire to please the Lord. It will eventually develop into greed to please the Lord. And that will make us, please, questions,
Pro-
comments,
Yeah,
thoughts.
Prabhu, thank you so much. But the thing is, our bhakti seems to be going up and down. Because this spring is coming, sometimes we have so many other activities. I know it is everything is done for Krishna, but sometimes we are focusing on our other activities. I know we are doing it for Krishna, but sometimes it is swinging back and forth a little bit, on the it's just like when the wind hits, you are going forward really crashing, and sometimes it's going low. So it doesn't go like increments, you keep on going like 5%, 10%, 15, 20, 25, and then 100%. No, it doesn't do that. It just is it's not I don't know. I don't know how everybody feels, but I do feel that sometimes.
We all feel the same way because we are all in this material body, and this material body is sada samudvignadhyam. It's always disturbed. Always disturbed. Something or the other is always distracting and disturbing us. So it's just a matter of practice.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I would like to add one comment for this question, Prabhu. Is that okay? You are breaking, Prabhu. Is it only for me or?
No, you are good.
Even for us, Prabhuji. Prabhuji is breaking on and off, on and off.
We cannot hear you correctly now.
Okay, now we are okay.
Yeah.
Now we are okay?
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji.
No, so what I was saying was that that this kind of Sangha, devotee association, we keep inspiring each other, we remind each other and each other's association. That's why devotee association is very important. Mahaprabhu's instructions are always engage in devotional service. How? Chanting, reading, deity worship, associating with devotees. And that's what we are doing.
So I would like to add one thing, if you allow me. So
sure, Prabhu.
Yeah. So actually, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna he himself says that there is always a fight between three modes of material nature in ourselves. So we are controlled by these three modes, right? Mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So sometimes mode of passion will be higher, dominating. Sometimes mode of goodness will be predominant, sometimes ignorance. So that is why our bhakti, our service also will keep varying. So if our mode of goodness is high on that particular day, particular time, then we are deep, like whatever we hear, we understood, it goes into our ears. Through our ears, it goes into our heart, and we try to implement also. But if our mode of ignorance is more, however good you say, whatever you say, don't go. So we'll put a ear blocker. So all these three modes will keep varying. So our practice is to get maximum time in the mode of goodness. So that is when our sadhana will also be steady. Now, just to answer to Vatsala Mataji's
thank you, Prabhu.
Very, very natural among everyone, because Krishna himself tells the details. These senses, these modes will be varying,
So isn't it because of Krishna too? He is residing within us. Then he can also do that. Like in a key, he can make it go up and down. He can do that.
I don't Krishna does that. Krishna is just watching there. See how much surrendered. Okay. So the more we surrender, as I said, the more we surrender, Krishna actually guides us initially within us. And then the more we surrender, if we completely surrender, Krishna acts using our senses. First, initially he'll guide, so that is like you are partially surrendered. He completely surrendered, he acts, he uses our senses and he acts himself. Like how he does, how he did in case of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada often says that these books are not written by me. These books are written by Krishna. And one of memories shared by Srila Prabhupada's disciple, he says that every morning Krishna comes to Srila Prabhupada and says that write books now. We will write. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada completely surrendered. So all of the senses of Srila Prabhupada were used by Krishna. Okay, so that is a pure devotee.
Yeah. And otherwise, and this is said in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, there's verses there, he says, Tesham satata yuktanam, bhajatam priti purvakam, dadami buddhi yogam tam, yena mamapi yanti. That I give you the knowledge. If you are engaged in my devotional service, I'll give you the knowledge by which you can come to me. So a little bit of effort from our side is required. We put in the effort, Krishna will help us.
Saujanya Mata, you have a question?
Thank you.
Prabhuji, the word when you said mulyam, laulyam, you mentioned the verse number. I forgot, Prabhuji. Maybe I missed it. Is it possible to?
Yeah, Mataji, that is actually the verses from Padyavali.
Padyavali,
not from Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, Prabhuji, no problem. And also just to add a note for what Mataji was saying, like if Krishna is within us, why can't he bring up when we go down? I think that's where he's telling us, like there should be an effort and endeavor from our end also. And Krishna is just watching. You do, then I'm ready to take you. But
yes,
it can't be only me. It's like two-sided. You do, and surely I will also do. And just like with our kids, we see them up and down in various mood swings, and sometimes they're, all this, like even with us, our own, like when we have to be constantly reminding. But some force, if we keep in the center, again we'll come back to that. We go back up down. So that force is what is important, and that's how Prabhupada says, keep Krishna in the center, keep Krishna in the center. And then we get used to it slowly. I wanted to share my thought that came to my mind.
Thank you, Madhuri. It's a very nice thought. And you're right about the effort. So why is it that Krishna wants us to make the effort? What does that effort indicate?
Because he wants our love. He wants that he wants to bring from within us. I don't know. I'm not able to word it out, Rosie. That within ourselves, he knows it's there. He wants us to bring it up.
There's that quality of independence that he has given us. See, we have all these qualities that Krishna has, but we have them in minute amounts. So independence, Krishna is supremely independent. We are minutely independent. So we have this minute independence. And if we utilize our independence to serve Krishna, means if we make a conscious decision, no, I want to serve Krishna, that's my decision, then Krishna feels very pleased. He says, okay, on your own, you are now agreeing to serve me. I will help you. Because he has given this independence. And Prabhupada says he will never take that independence away from us.
Prabhu, I think sometimes it's better that even though it's Krishna wants us to be with him, then why, I mean, he knows we are struggling. Why can't he just pull it? Hey, you are a fool. Just come on. I'm going to take control of your senses. Why you should? I think sometimes we say we are fools. Just take control of our senses. That
Just
will make.
think about it this way, Mataji. He kept telling us, don't go to the material world. And we said, no, we want to go. We used our independence. So now he says, okay, now that you come to this material world, I know you will not be happy here. So I'm giving you the remedy for how to come back also. So that's why he says, well, if you sarva dharman parityaja, mamekam sharanam vraja. Just surrender to me. You surrender to me, I'll take you back. It's as simple as that. He just wants us to consciously say yes. And so what you're saying, Mataji, is 100% right. If you're saying to Krishna, Krishna, I agree. I need to come back to you. What am I doing in this material world? He'll definitely take us back. That is surrender. That is the independence that he wants us to use the right way.
Yeah, I always being pulled by that too. You know, he says one time, you do this, and then we are like a minute mustard seeds in the whole universe. This seeds can have a lot of ego too. This this mustard head has a lot of ego or something, or something comes up,
Yeah.
and it's not letting us progress. That's why I said Krishna should just bang on our head, go sit, just like our teachers used to say, get a thumpet, get one, whack one, and then take you back there, because you don't know what you are doing. You think you want this, but you don't know what you are doing as a kid. So just go. I think you should do that. I think that's what Krishna should do. Instead of, don't give us any more free will. Please take it away from us. We
If you
mess
ask,
ourselves.
if you ask Krishna to do that for you, then he'll do it for you. You know?
Yeah, bang on the head. Go take it. It makes it easy for us. Instead of making all the time, okay, did I do it right? Am I with Krishna? Am I doing favorable acts for Krishna? Am I not favorable for Krishna? Is it good or bad? Is that just point blank? Just take us, and you are the controller. You just take control of the situation. Let's move on.
Prabhuji, I just wanted to add in response to Mataji's question and your wonderful answer, that actually someone had asked my Guru Maharaj this once, and he said that firstly, when you force someone, like supposing I want someone to like me, so if I force them to like me, there's no pleasure, there's no maza.
Right.
So that's one reason why Krishna never forces us. He wants us to realize how miserable this life is,
Right.
and naturally love him and naturally want to go back to him. Like he wants to enjoy that feeling that we have, that, I just don't want this material world. I have to go back. That urge, that eagerness is what he enjoys. And he doesn't want, like if he forces us, then we will just feel so pressurized, and he will not get the pleasure of having us back. That's one thing. And the second thing is, it's just like a child. Like with my child, if I force her to eat, she's not going to eat. So if Krishna forces us to do something, all the more we will not do it. So knowing that, he's like left us to our halat. You yourself realize, like he's very smart. He's made this material world in a way that we want to enjoy, but he's made it in a way that we cannot enjoy. So then we'll ourselves get the kicks and blows, and then finally we will, look at the mother. I just wanted to add, Prabhu.
Yeah, very nicely explained, Madhuri. Thank you so much. That is exactly the thing, because that independence, that quality of independence that he's given us, he's saying, if I force you to do things, then where is the question of independence?
Exactly.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. It was very nicely explained.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji has a question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So I had a question, like if Krishna wanted us to take only Krishna consciousness and come to him, then why all the other process were described, Prabhuji, like Ashtanga Yoga? That there are a lot of yoga process for controlling our mind. So why is that described? And I had, like, in the same context, even in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, like the questions given by the sages, one of the question includes, like, these are the questions, like how Kali Yuga people will deal with, because they have laziness, a lot of qualities in them. But even in that context, I had the same doubt, like in around third canto, when Kardama Muni, the discussion between Dehuti Mata and Kardama Muni, there also the stress was given more about the yogic processes. And could you please like explain that, Prabhuji, so I'll be able to understand. So,
yes, Madhuri, very, very nice question. So this is basically related to the yoga ladder process that we had discussed some time back, and maybe we'll revisit that a little bit more next time. But basically, these are all processes for linking with the Supreme. So when you asked about what about Ashtanga Yoga, for example, yoga basically means linking with the Supreme. So any process of yoga is designed to link you, connect you to Krishna. But there are different stages of attachment to Krishna. And each of these processes, each of these different yogas, starting from, Karma Yoga, and then going up to Gyan Yoga, and so on and so forth, these are all designed to eventually take us to Bhakti Yoga. So think of it this way. Think of each of these yoga processes as different grades in school. So if school goes through 12th grade, right? 12th grade is the highest. After you finish 12th grade, you have to go to college. But that doesn't mean that 9th grade is not important. It doesn't mean that 10th grade is not important. It's only if you finish 9th grade, then you can go to 10th. If you finish 10th, then you can go to 11th. You see? So same way, these different processes of yoga, they elevate you to the next stage. So if 9th grade is Karma Yoga, then 10th grade becomes Gyan Yoga. And so finally, then 12th grade is Bhakti Yoga. Because once you reach Bhakti Yoga, then your next step is to go back to the spiritual world. So these are all different steps in the process of yoga or linking with Krishna. Now, the only difference is when it's a mundane example like school, you have to go through 9th in order to go to 10th to 11th, so forth. But Bhakti Yoga is a process that you can take to directly. You don't necessarily have to go through the other yoga processes in order to get to the stage of Bhakti. If somebody is fortunate enough by the association of a pure devotee to get to the understanding that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate process that I have to get to, then just take simply to Bhakti Yoga. So with reference to Kardama Muni's explanations to Devahuti Mata, see, Kardama Muni himself was a great mystic yogi. He created the whole palace, floating city and all those kinds of things. So, but he himself was very renounced because the yogis, advanced yogis like him, understand that all these mystic powers, they can give us certain level of material enjoyment for some period of time, but it is still temporary. And therefore, the focus of Bhagavatam is Bhakti Yoga. And therefore, the focus of Bhagavad Gita is also Bhakti Yoga. And so in chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, which focuses purely on devotional service, there are some of the verses they describe that, okay, if you cannot take to the process of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna says to Arjuna, please take the process of Bhakti Yoga. Then he says, if you cannot take to the process of Bhakti Yoga, then different levels are described. Starting with, okay, try to give some of the results of your work, or try to, and that way you will develop knowledge. Or if you develop knowledge, then use that knowledge to understand Krishna. And so there's a gradual progression that is described, but the eventual goal is bhakti. So if we understand the eventual goal is bhakti, why not take to that process directly? That's the point that was being made in this whole yoga ladder.
Prabhu, can I ask one more question, please?
Yes, Madhuri.
Prabhu, so if we are talking about this different processes of yoga, the different ladder, and even in that meditation class, they teach you how to go into samadhi. If you keep on doing, I know sometimes they say we cannot attain samadhi, it is in this Kali Yuga, but through meditation process or by Guru's grace, they say you can get into that. But is that the state comparatively the same as we are when we engage ourselves in deeper chanting, attentive chanting? We can get to the same samadhi state with a deeper, chanting of Mahamantra. If we are in oneness with Krishna, when you are chanting completely off of anything, is it equal to that samadhi state that we are getting through meditation?
Yes,
So that,
indeed.
okay.
It is. And that was, in fact, what we read today also, I think was text 57. Yeah, in the purport of 57, Prabhupada explains, and I'll read the last sentence. He says, such consciousness in Krishna situates one in a perfect transcendental position called technically samadhi. So the idea of samadhi by meditation, you see, what is a person doing when he or she is meditating? They're concentrating the mind on God, right?
Yeah, focus on that God.
And typically one thinks that to focus the mind on God, you have to sit down and stop walking and talking and just sit quietly and meditate. That's one way to do it. But Bhagavatam says, Krite yag dhyato Vishnu, tretayam yagato madhe. So in every yuga, there's a different process. In Satyug, Krite yag dhyato Vishnu. In Satyug, the process was meditation. But in Kali Yuga, the same result can be achieved through the process of chanting the holy name of God. So Krite yag dhyato Vishnu tetayam yagato makai dvapare paricharyaya kalau tad hari kirtana. In Kali Yuga, Hari Kirtan gives you the same result that meditation gave you in Satyug. So through meditation to get to Samadhi was very appropriate for Satyug, where the lifespan was 100,000 years. Because it takes that long a period of time. Now in Kali Yuga, when the lifespan is only 100 years, Krishna has given us a process that is appropriate for this age, and it is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Because it does the same thing. It concentrates your mind on Krishna. Because you're using all your senses, your tongue, your ears, your eyes, your touch, everything you're focusing on hearing the holy vibration. And that's what Prabhupada has said, this vibration is not a mundane vibration. This is coming from the spiritual world. You think about it. You can sit down and for 2 hours chant this Hare Krishna mantra continuously. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. You're going on chanting every day. Try saying, it's very funny. I heard actually a lecture, it was very old, by Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And it was actually a TV interview. And he says, you can go on saying something like coffee. After 2 minutes, you will get sick of it. You will think you're going mad. But the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, just practically, you chant it for so long during the course of a day after day, you never get tired of it. This is a spiritual vibration. This is not a mundane vibration. And that is why it has that effect.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Welcome, Mataji. Any other questions or thoughts, comments?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Mataji.
Very nice class. Thank you.
Jai Prabhupada.
Yeah, I think we are good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Prabhu. It's a wonderful session and nice practical examples also.
Thank you all, Prabhuji. Mataji.
So
Nice.
Before I let everyone go, I have one announcement to be made.
Yes, Prabhu.
So we will all. I want everyone to wish senior devotee here in this group, Vatsala Mataji.
Oh, come on. No, you don't have to do anything. Come on, Mukta Sangha. It's all right.
No, give me this opportunity, Mataji. Sorry, without your permission, I'm taking this opportunity.
Well, Ashok doesn't always advertise anything. He's a very quiet person. I am the one louder person. He is very quiet. He doesn't like bombastic words or any actions.
That's okay. It's for our pleasure. We have to glorify you, So today
Glorify Krishna. We are all his
Vatsala
servants.
Mataji's wedding anniversary.
Haribo.
50 years.
50 years, Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Bol, Hare Bol.
Very nice. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
And to both of you, may Krishna give you all more and more and more years of Krishna conscious married life in Krishna service. Jai.
Can you switch?
Yeah, Krishna service. Yeah, I take that.
Can you switch off the video? We have to see you.
Oh no, I'm wearing my hat. Don't. No, it's okay. You don't have to. I will show my face some other time. I'm wearing a hat because I was feeling cold. I always wear hat when I'm cold. My ears are getting cold.
Maybe when you come to 75 years of married life.
Thank you so much, everybody. Well, Krishna gives all the opportunities to serve him. And see, I was showing my garden work everywhere. I was showing my flowers. Every day I offer my daffodils, tulips, and hyacinth. They are so beautiful. I think that I have to, appreciate Krishna for giving.
So let's together wish Vatsala Mataji a wonderful, happy married life by chanting one time Maha Mantra.
Oh, it's all right. Come on.
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Hare.
Thank you. Everything goes to Krishna. Without his grace, I would not be alive. And it is because of his grace and Srila Prabhupada's books, I am here alive and kicking. Thank you. And all your Mukta Sangha, everybody's association. I love all of you. My deepest affection for Mukta Sangha family. And everybody, when I ask questions and when I am with, I'm very happy. And I'm normally very happy. I like to, laugh and do things. And Krishna is giving the opportunity to read and getting along with everybody and doing the best I can in my, see, at my age, I can even shovel my snow and neighbors' yard too. So that is a good thing, right?
It's a very good thing.
Especially in Corona. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mataji, it's a 50th anniversary, silver jubilee, or what?
I don't know. He doesn't call anything. Ashok is a very quiet, very humble, very, very nice person. Krishna gave Ashok to me. I mean, such a great soul I have. And my in-laws were so wonderful. My father-in-law was such a great person. And I was very blessed when I came to this country after getting married to him. And not even 19 at the time. And he taught me everything, driving, school, sent me to school. Such a nice person in my life. There is nobody I could compare. Only Krishna was kind enough in my lifetime. So that's all. Everything goes back to Krishna. So,
so one thing I would like to add that, we all have to, we all are grahasthas here, right? So senior most is Vatsala Mataji, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost over 68 now.
I'm not sure about Ajit Krishna Prabhu, but I feel senior most is Vatsala Mataji here. So we all have to learn. She's setting a very good example how one can be happy in whatever situation it is. I have never seen Vatsala Mataji in a very depressed mood anytime. Always laughing. So
no, but my brothers used to complain all the time when I was growing up. My brothers, why are you laughing, Vatsala? You shouldn't be laughing this much. And he will be controlling me. All my two brothers will be controlling. My sister will be controlling. But I have to laugh. I cannot be a very moody person. That is not my nature.
So that is a very good sign. I think that's really a good sign that Krishna has a special mercy upon you, because
yeah, he has been good to me.
Will increase your lifespan also. That is a scientific
Exactly.
study. Laughing will increase your lifespan so that you can dedicate more to Krishna, in fact.
Yes.
And very active, Prabhuji. We have in the temple, the way Mataji takes her activities, I didn't even know that she was 68. Now when she said, I'm like, oh my God, how will we be? We're nothing.
Yeah, happy and healthy. Healthiest.
Yeah, I have been shoveling my snow. I have been planting my garden. I do most of my work. I don't hire anybody. I do everything myself. Painted my basement, everything I do it myself.
Oh.
Very good, Mataji. Please
Thank
bless
you.
us.
Mataji, many more years to be like that. We wish.
Yes.
Yeah, till I am before 80, I would like to go. I don't know. It's up to Krishna. Whenever he takes me, I'm ready. Each day is a gift.
No, you still have to be here with us, setting up more examples like this.
Oh. I don't know about that. We will see.
Thank
Well,
you. Thank you.
Thank
very
thank
much.
you.
Yes, Prabhu. Ajit Krishna Prabhu, thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll offer obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare
Thank you.
Pranam Pavanebhyo Vaishvanebhyo.
Namo Namaha.
Namo Namaha.
Koti Vaishnava
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai.
I really enjoyed the class and everybody's association. Thank you.
ki Jai.
Appreciate all
Jai.
this.
Krishna
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Really wonderful.